was with the Eagles, so to honor the Super Bowl champs, wanted to put it on. You guys watch.
And we're thrilled to welcome everyone to the White House, special place, and to celebrate Super Bowl 59 champion, the Philadelphia Eagles. And that was a special day. That was a big one. But the Eagles have turned out to be an incredible team, an incredible group with a fantastic coach and coaches. And having you at the White House is very, very special and important. And we appreciate you being here.
My bad, Chad.
And I think what we're going to do is, on occasion, when we have a really great championship team, we bring them over to the Oval Office after we're finished, and they get a chance to look at some incredible real estate. And we have a little each and every one of them, and it's a terrific present. So we're going to do that for this team, okay? And we'll do that. We'll walk down to the Oval Office. And who knows? One of them may soon be
still alive
sitting in
right
that
now.
seat, you know? They become famous, and we sure as hell know they're good athletes. Now they have to have some other ability, and they do. And we'll see what happens. But I especially want to recognize the Eagles owner, chairman, and CEO, Jeffrey Lurie. Where is Jeffrey? Jeffrey, where is Jeffrey? Where is he?
Jeffrey Lurie.
He's my neighbors, right? And he's a good neighbor, as well as your general manager, Howie Roseman. Howie. And your spirited coach, Nick Sirianni. Thank you, Nick. Well, you know, a lot of people, they doubted, well, they always doubt championship teams, and then they become championship teams. They never doubt them again. But Nick proved the doubters wrong and brought the Vince Lombardi Trophy back to Philadelphia, and convincingly. We also have to recognize the Eagles' head of security. You know, this is a guy, they say he loves Trump. This is a guy, and I had Saquon give him a big, beautiful hat last night because I've been hearing about this guy. He likes Trump. His name is Dominic DeSandro, Big Dom, and he's sort of a legend.
Hit that like button for me, guys.
Come here, Tom.
Chat. Hit that like button.
Say a few words, Tom. I hear this guy's just, come here.
I'd just like to say thank you.
That's
We're honored to be
right.
here. Thank you, President Trump, and that's it. Go Birds.
Thank you.
We're still live right now, guys. So I only
He's a
had to go
big
back
part
about
of the
5
team, that's what
minutes,
I
so we
hear.
still got it live.
But I want to thank also some incredible talent and representatives for our country. Pam Bondi is here. She's doing such a good job on television this morning, too, Pam. She's incredible. Lori Chavez Durima, Secretary of Labor. Scott Turner, HUD. Hello, Scott. You're doing good. I want to thank you all for being here. Senator Dave McCormick. David, thank you. Hey, come on up here, David. Come on. Representatives Rob Bresnahan, Brian Fitzpatrick, Ryan McKenzie, Dan Muser,
Marcos, what's up,
Burgess
man?
Owens, Lloyd Smucker, G.T. Thompson, and Jeff Van Drew. And we have a lot of other congressmen here, but I have no idea who they are because I can't see you and all these people. But I apologize. See, they'll never speak to me again.
Thanks
They'll
for
be
stopping
angry,
by,
but I
Marcos.
just don't
Hit
know
that like
who you
button for
might
me,
be
Marcos.
right now. As well as Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday. Thank you, Dave. Good job, Dave. And Treasurer Stacey Garrity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stacey. Have a lot of great politicians out there. For Eagles fans, the road to this day has been long, but the journey has been well worth it. I would say, Jeffrey, that was a great journey for you, huh? It was great for you and for everybody else. And it's, look at the size of this guy. These guys. You know, when I walked up, I said, you know, you just stay here a little bit. I'll walk up in front of you because I didn't want to get anywhere near the size of you. and the greatness as a player, too, I can tell you. 2 years ago, the Eagles came incredibly close to football immortality in Super Bowl 57. You remember that game. But after a hard-fought game, you suffered a really heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs by just 3 points. It looked like you had the game. This past year, the Eagles were determined to get it back, and get it back they did. The season started off slow, but you soon caught fire with your great coach inspiring you, and you got the ball to
Yeah,
your
great coach.
superstar running back, who I met
Young
yesterday,
coach,
and I
too.
want to tell you, he's a handsome guy, but I wouldn't want to tackle him. Saquon Barkley, where's Saquon?
Yeah, Saquon. The Giants let him go. Okay, Giants.
He's great. I got to know him a little bit. I offered him a ride on Air Force One because I was coming down.
Hey.
And usually they say, no, I don't think so. He said, I'll take it, sir.
Yeah, I would have took it
And
too.
he loved it. We love being together. He's a great young guy and an incredible football player. Saquon had a season for the ages, running behind the most powerful offensive line in the NFL, featuring. That's true. That's pretty. That's what this. That's a big group. We're going to introduce him. Jordan Mailata. Thank you, Jordan. These are big people. Landon Dickerson. Six-time Pro Bowler right tackle Lane Johnson. That's like, wow. That's pretty good. How is he? Is he better than you guys? I didn't know. Six-time Pro Bowl. That's pretty good. In Week 9 against Jacksonville, Saquon performed football magic while racking up a total 119 yards, 99 yards, almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. In the second quarter, he caught the ball, dodged 2 tacklers, and then hurtled backward over another diving defender, sending him flying through Saquon's legs. You remember that one? I said, oh, that's a dangerous play, but he doesn't care about danger on the football field. And by the way, I have to tell you something. I was with the Giants and the head coach and some people, and I said, do anything you have to, but don't lose Saquon. They lost Saquon. That was not good. I called that one. That was an easy one to call because he played damn well for the Giants. I can tell you that. But he made the right decision because it is a team sport, and there's great people on this team. This unforgettable display of athleticism will soon be seen in highlight reels, and you've seen a lot of it. I've seen that game numerous times. They play it over and over. It was an amazing game, the final game, and a little bit surprising that either team would have won by so much. But ultimately, Saquon rushed for more than 2,500 yards in the regular season and playoffs combined, an NFL record. Think of that, all those years. And he was named NFL Offensive Player of the Year. So I want to congratulate him. What a guy. Complimenting Saquon's historic season was an incredible year from star quarterback Jalen Hurts, and he really had he had a great season and a great game. Finished with 32 touchdowns in the year, turning in one stellar performance after another. A terrific guy and a terrific player. On defense, the Eagles finished the regular season with the fewest yards allowed per game, thanks in large part to talented young stars like safety Reed Blankenship. Where's Reed? Come on, say something. Look at this guy.
I don't have a lot to say, but go Birds, even in DC.
And on defense, the Eagles finished is really legendary because I think probably it's been one of the greatest finishes in football history. In Week 11 against Washington, Reed had 10 tackles overall and an interception in the fourth quarter to seal the win. That was a big one. That was a rough game for the opposing team. That's one of those that you don't sleep very well, but you guys came back and you did an incredible job just to get through. The Eagles ended the regular season at 14-3 with only 3 playoff games standing in the way of the Super Bowl in New Orleans. After beating the Green Bay Packers in the first game, the Eagles won a close one against the Los Angeles Rams, all good games. Then in the NFC Championship game against Washington, Saquon took his very first handoff for a 60-yard touchdown and then added another touchdown minutes later. And you know, Saquon's a good golfer, but he's a much better football player, in case you had any thoughts of doing something else, Saquon. Soon, thanks to 55 points in the day, the Eagles punched their ticket to a Super Bowl rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs, and you know what happened? It was an incredible game, a little surprising, but right from the beginning, in the first quarter of the big game, which I was there, I watched in person. I was there along with Taylor Swift. How did that work out? How did that one work out? The Eagles scored a touchdown on their signature play, the tush push. You know what that is? Or I hope they keep that play, Coach. I don't know. But, you know, they're talking about getting rid of that play. I understand they should keep it. What do you think, Saquon? I like it. You have guys like this pushing you around a little bit. I like it. It's sort of exciting and different. I would like to see something done. I'd like to go back to the regular kickoff, however. We don't like that kickoff where nobody's moving. The ball's in the air, nobody's moving, but I won't ask the coach or Lane or any of the people about that, but as a fan, I don't know. I'm not sure, Jeffrey. Or some of the people, they call it the brotherly shove, you know, the other. Meanwhile, the ferocious Eagles defense pressured the Chiefs offense on almost every snap, causing 6 sacks, and 3 turnovers, including a phenomenal interception return for the touchdown by a spectacular rookie, Cooper DeJean. Good job. Cooper made the play of his life, and he did it on his 22nd birthday. Wow, you're a young guy, huh? A short time later, a touchdown pass right before halftime and another one in the third quarter helped put the game on ice. And at the final whistle, the green and white confetti rained down on the scoreboard. It was 40-22. And I think maybe the Eagles themselves were surprised, but boy, they played great. They looked unbeatable. It was a great moment for an incredible group of people. Throughout their extraordinary season, the amazing group of warriors, and that's what they are, they're really modern-day warriors, inspired the world with incredible spirit, athletic dominance, and exceptional teamwork, and you made the Eagles fans everywhere really very proud. Whether you're an Eagle fan or not, they were proud to watch a team of such great power and dominance, and you really have a whole life to lead, and you can say you've done it. You've done something that very few people are able to do. We've seen a lot of great teams, Lane and Coach. We've seen a lot of great teams, but they don't ever get to where you've already gotten. And you're a young guy to be Coach. Oh, I'd like to be his manager right now. I'd like to be, if I pick up my little 10% for doing nothing. So I want to congratulate once again, and let me just say, fly, Eagles, fly, right? And with that, I want to bring up one of the great offensive linemen, really of all time. When you're a 6-time All-Pro, that's really something. And Lane Johnson, come up and say a few words. Congratulations, you're really something special. Thank you.
Move this up a little bit. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to be here, sending us the invitation. What an incredible year it was for us, really having the chance to play the team that we lost to a couple years before and come through. But I want to thank Mr. Lurie just for creating a championship organization and culture. Howie Roseman putting the time in, everybody on the coaching staff. Just what a wonderful season it was. And we're not done. We're ready for another round. So thank y'all. And go Birds. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, for having us here. We also appreciate the endorsement for the tush push. We really appreciate that. And go Birds!
Jeffrey, maybe you could say a few words. You've done an amazing job in putting this team together. Come on up. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. President. It's truly an honor to be here. I remember as a little boy the championship teams that came to the White House, and I'd never dreamed we'd be able to, have a team and be as good as this. And this was a dominant team with incredible culture, everything we all believe in as the best human values: selflessness, humility, teamwork, talent, discipline, everything that we all strive for, this team incorporated. So thank you for the hospitality today, and go Birds.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Wow. Whoa. That's pretty good. Thank you.
Nope, we're not gonna play that because they're definitely gonna hit me with a copyright for that. I already know how YouTube rolls out, Chad. Alright, so we're about to get into our regularly scheduled program, Chad. Y'all just gotta give me a minute to set up. Alright, Chad. Give me 1 minute so I can set up. And we're gonna get right to it. day for my bad, Ramsey. All right. Yo, what up, chat? We are live. We just saw President Trump at the White House with the Eagles. That was dope. I wanted to catch that for you guys because I knew it was coming on at 4 p.m. So I was like, all right, let me grab that. And it really wasn't even on right away type time. It really wasn't even on right away. They were doing like some broadcasting. You know how they do it. And they're waiting for the president to come out. And like, then they're going to be playing all of the music. So I'm going to get a copyright for that. So I was like, no, that's not happening. Let me readjust this for a minute, y'all. All right, let's put this a little bit higher up now. Right there. So you guys can see it clearer. So I just went ahead and muted that. So if you guys were in the chat and you're like, what's going on? I don't hear nothing. Yeah, I did that on purpose because YouTube's just going to give me a copyright strike for it. And it's not a big deal. I could always go back and mute it out, but you know, it makes the live stream look kind of weird. So I didn't want to do that. So let me pull these tabs up for you guys real quick. History. Let me find out a little refresh. Did you not refresh? Did you not refresh? Let that play really quick. What's up, y'all? Say what's up in the chat as you come in. April 28th on a Monday, y'all. On a Monday. Oh, man. On a Monday. What they call it, a manic Monday? I don't agree to that. Mondays can be crazy at work sometimes, though, but say what's up as you come in the chat. How's your Monday going? Yes, we've been live streaming for a while. That's because the first thing we watched was President Trump at the White House with the Eagles. That's the first thing that was on the menu. Next up is our regularly scheduled program. So this isn't too short, but I want to put this right here. Clip from So the last time we were on here was Saturday, which you guys know that because we don't live stream on Sunday here. And we covered two things on the live stream on Saturday that I said I was going to bring back on Monday for us to touch on. I've gotten a little bit more information on Candace Owens' reaction to President Trump with the whole Harvard situation, but not as much as I want. So I'm going to look into that a little bit more for you guys, but we're going to watch that again today. Get a little bit of a clearer understanding as to what she's saying, even though I do feel like she does have a point. Granted, some people, they may feel like she's being overzealous. They may feel like that. But, like I said, Candace Owens is not the type to just go off on President Trump or someone who's reasonably conservative. So that's why I caught my eye. So with that being said, guys, what is up, everybody? April 28th, 2025 on a Monday. Welcome to Cozy Corner TV. I am your host, Kieran Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner. We're on the corner, guys. I wanted to give you a formal introduction because first up, we had the Eagles being hosted at the White House with President Trump. So I wanted to catch some of that just to pay homage to the Super Bowl champs. And then we are going to jump into our regularly scheduled program, the daily live stream here on Cozy Corner TV, where we react to news in real life, reactions that other people do, depending on how it lines up with what we're already reacting to. And we come here every single day except for Sunday. So with that being said, I would say from a mental health standpoint, make sure you are grounded and you are regulated. Why? Because news can be triggering. If you are not, watch this later on. If you are, welcome to the live stream. So first up on the menu is shout out to CBS News. White House puts up posters of arrested migrants. Trump says he runs the country and the world. So there might be some embellishment on that, but we'll take a look at that from CBS News. Then we're going to jump over to Anthony Brian Logan. Shout out to him. We react to Anthony on the channel pretty often. Tom Homan destroys media over criminal migrant deportation. So I wanted to get his take on this and what he thought about it. He also brought up the signs that were lined up across the White House lawn, where they have a list of illegal immigrants that were in the United States who have been arrested for different crimes that they've committed. And yes, they are pretty heinous, pretty violent, pretty grotesque, and they're going along the White House lawn. So we're going to take a look at that. Then we're going to jump over to Candace Owens. But Stephen A. Smith covered this. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. Candace Owens is going after President Trump. My thoughts. So we're going to take a look at that. She's not really going after him per se, but she is opposing to a position that he's taken when it comes to Harvard University. So we'll take a look at that. Then shout out to Stephen A. Smith once again. Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp has stepped away from ESPN. My thoughts. So again, the Candace Owens one and the Shannon Sharp we reacted to here on Saturday, but it was more like a newsathon. So I had you guys watching it. I didn't say too much about it. Today we'll go a little bit deeper into that. And then last but not least, we will end the live stream with a clip from Cliff. Cliff Buell is a YouTube content creator who focuses on Christian content. And every single day on a live stream over here, we end it with a clip from Cliff or another YouTube content creator that's a Christian or focuses on Christian content. So with that being said, guys, let's jump into the first clip of the live stream. CBS News White House puts up posters of arrested migrants. Trump says he runs the country and the world. Let's take a listen. You know what? Let me just do that for every single one now that I noticed that.
President Donald Trump will mark his first 100 days in office with a rally in Michigan tomorrow and a message. Promises made, promises kept. But new CBS News polling suggests support for the president and those promises is slipping. Let's show you the contrast. Back in February.
So you guys might not be able to see this because YouTube might have flipped it. Right here it says CBS News poll, Trump's overall approval rating. So in February, we have him at February 9th, 53%, March 2nd, 51%, March 30th, 50%, April 13th, 47th, and now 45%.
Americans gave him a 53% approval rating. Now that number is down to 45%. More Americans polled disapprove of the president's immigration policies. 51% disapprove, 49% approve, but more targeted questions specific to deportations and the numbers improved to 56% approval. That said, a large majority say the mistaken detentions and deportations of U.S. citizens is unacceptable. But the White House...
So let me see this poll again real quick for you guys. Trump administration's program to deport immigrants illegally in the U.S. 56% approve, 44% disapprove, and then it went over here. Deportations program. What if legal U.S. residents are mistakenly detained, deported? Acceptable. Only 27% at detained, 19 at deported. Not acceptable. 73 detained. 81% at deported. Yeah, so they're not going for legal U.S. residents being mistakenly deported or detained. That's highly unacceptable amongst Americans, but you know.
And deportations of U.S. citizens is unacceptable. But the White House is doubling down on the justification for those deportations, going as far as to say.
And I don't say, but you know, like it doesn't matter. I just say, but you know, in the sense where, yeah, they can be a legal U.S. resident, but you know, we're seeing what the administration is pushing. If they're here and they're doing things that are anti-American, some people will say really anti-President Trump's cabinet, whichever side of the fence you land on. But I would say anti-American, definitely. We could clearly see it as clear as day, anti-Israel. That you know, you run the risk of being deported, and that's pretty much in any country, depending on what laws you break. But yeah, in the United States, even if you are a legal resident here, depending on what you're doing, Marco Rubio has went on record to say, like, that is a privilege, and we also reserve the right to revoke that privilege. So,
putting up posters of arrested undocumented migrants on the White House North Lawn there. So let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. She is there. Nancy, we can see those posters behind you. Why did the White House choose that spot? Is it because they knew that all the cameras were going to be there and they were going to get plenty of airtime?
That's right. All the networks, all the cable channels, we're all lined up in a row here on the North Lawn of the White House. And so the posters are lined up right behind us. And you can see each of them has a mugshot. It says arrested, and then it lists the crime that the unauthorized migrant was arrested for in the first 100 days of the Trump presidency. Violent crimes like sexual assault on a child,
flex, okay.
murder, rape.
That's why he has it up there.
The White House is making the case
flex.
that President Trump is making the country safer by getting these people off the streets, Liz.
And Nancy, President Trump is set to sign more executive orders on immigration today. What do we know about those?
Right. So he's got a very busy day because he's going to be greeting the Super Bowl champion Eagles to the White House in the afternoon, then signing executive orders on immigration right after that. And you know, the administration is going to be touting their first 100 days accomplishments all week long, but it is no accident that they are starting out today with this big push on immigration. We had a briefing with the president's so-called border czar, Tom Homan, first thing this morning at 8:30, where he made the case that that the administration has effectively sealed off the border, and that's something you're going to hear echoed by the president himself this afternoon in the Oval Office.
And Nancy, in a sit-down interview with the Atlantic magazine, President Trump said, quote, "I run the country, I won the world." That interview was published today. What else can you tell us about what the president had to say in that interview?
Right, it's a pretty astounding statement, right? That the President of the United States, yes, the U.S. is often seen as the world's policeman, the most powerful country in the world, but for the President of the United States to come right out and say, "I run the world," that is a pretty bold claim. And it came in the larger context of the president telling these reporters from The Atlantic that he feels much more comfortable with the scope of his power in his second term, that he had people around him in his first term that he described in that interview as crooked, said he had to deal with that, and he was just in survival mode as a first-time politician. This time
he said that
around,
on Joe Rogan's
he
podcast
said he's got
too.
people coming to him wanting to make deals, and that he feels clearly that he has a very expansive view of presidential power, and that he isn't afraid to use it.
All right, Nancy Cordes live for us in front of the White House there. Thanks so much, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Well, a hearing today in the battle between the Trump administration and Harvard. The school filed a lawsuit after the Trump administration froze more than $2 billion of federal funding. Now, the university previously rejected the administration's demands for changes to its admissions, hiring, and discipline policies to be in line with President Trump's ideals. Let's bring in CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, could this lawsuit set a precedent for other universities that oppose the administration's policies? Harvard's not the only one that gets federal funding.
That's right, and we've seen a lot of different colleges, whether it's Columbia University or others, get hit with kind of this dangling thread of either change your ways and kind of oblige by what we believe you should be doing, whether it's on research, on DEI, and what the Trump administration definition of that is versus other definitions. But there's also this conversation to be had too of how hard can Harvard fight back in this interim period. At the hearing today, the judge said is scheduling an initial hearing in this for arguments later in July. So at least it appears that this funding freeze is going to be in place till then. Very unlikely, just given that at least the pace right now of this case, that they will have their full funding fully restored by the fall. But again, that's a lot of money that goes towards everything from future research that they're doing in the future to right now. And it really is a cost-benefit analysis that we've seen with these law firms as well, in which you have to decide whether to kind of go along with what the Trump administration is doing or kind of take the longer play here. And certainly this Harvard case is certainly the biggest and most important so far of the Trump administration using kind of the threat of cutting off money entirely over institutions that typically have never been under attack like this.
And Jake, the Trump administration is facing another deadline this week in the deportation case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Here's Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt this morning addressing the case.
Just to be clear, have there been any negotiations between the U.S. and El Salvador over his release or facilitating his release?
I will tell you what the president of El Salvador told all of you in the Oval Office. El Salvador does not intend to smuggle a designated foreign terrorist back into the United States. He is an El Salvadorian national. That is his home country. That is where he belongs. And the administration intends to comply with what President Bukele said of El Salvador. He does not intend to send that individual back.
So that's a no. There's been no talks.
What I have told you is that the president of El Salvador has made this quite clear.
Okay, Jake, so what's this week's deadline? And is this an indication that the DOJ is not going to comply here?
Well, both sides in this case.
Here's where I find this interesting. She says, is this an indication that the DOJ is not going to comply? Who said that they're not going to comply? This is why I like the way that Caroline Leavitt answers the question, because she's specific and she says, I'm going off of what the president and the Oval Office told all of you already, which is that he has no intention on sending back an El Salvadorian terrorist, right? At this point, they're kind of answering the questions, at least from the Trump administration side, like, why do you keep asking this? Like, what is so hard for, why is this so hard for you to understand? What is so hard for you to understand, right? And we listened to President Bukele sit in the Oval Office and say that the man was a terrorist himself. And I said that. I said, this is not going to work in Kilmar's favor because you have your president. This is no different than President Trump sitting with another world leader in a different country regarding one of us and saying that, yeah, I'm not going to let that person come back to the United States because they're a terrorist. Well, how long is our own president going to be able to say that before the entire country is on board with something like that? The fact that President Bukele said it, I said it wasn't going to work well in Kilmar's favor. So when she's asking, is this an indication that the DOJ isn't going to comply? Based on the way Caroline Leavitt just answered the question, it would be, what do they need to comply with? If President Bukele is saying that he's not going to send him back, the United States can't go get him. If he had, just because you have residency in a country doesn't mean that that country has any type of sovereignty over you. Not if you actually belong to a totally different country. So at this point, if he's in trouble in El Salvador and that's where he's from, he's gonna have to stay there. Like, I don't understand why it's hard for people to understand this either, but the media is like really making a mess of this to the point where it's getting to the point where it's like, wow, are you guys gonna keep dragging this on? A lot of people want to paint it as, you know, they're not returning the Maryland father back to the United States, but it's so much more attached to it. It's so much more than that. And when you have people arguing back like, well, he wasn't MS-13. Again, it doesn't help that a 2 court, so appellate court, said that he is an MS-13 gang member and that he was in the country illegally. This stuff doesn't work in his favor. So the fact that people keep asking like, when is he coming back? Why hasn't he returned yet? I think it's just interesting the way the media is trying to play on this.
Both the Department of Justice and attorneys for Abrego Garcia agreed last week on Wednesday to postpone a deadline for discovery or expedited fact-finding in this case. What is really at stake here is whether the Department of Justice cooperates on having additional members of the Department of Homeland Security, State Department, and others comply for depositions, and whether, after a judge in this case issued a rather scathing order, the Department of Justice complies by answering questions sought by Abrego Garcia's attorneys. Those, at least as of last week, were not answered at all on Wednesday, and that's why the judge gave them extra time, very likely. But more to come in this case on that specifically, but there really has been no change from the White House or Trump administration on bringing him back, and we see them kind of parse words there, as even though the Supreme Court ordered the administration to bring him back as if he had been wrongly removed from the United States, we saw Caroline Leavitt say right there that that is just not going to happen because they say that they have no power to compel his return. However, at least the judge in this case and other judges around the country have ordered there has to be some kind of production of these people for due process at one point or another.
All right.
So in regards to the due process comment, we already heard Marco Rubio answer this, right? We already heard him say that, and we actually heard Pete Hegseth chime in on this as well. If the president deems a certain group a terroristic group, there is no due process. There is no due process, and no one can say, well, that's not fair, that's not right, that's a person's right. That's actually not a person's right in a country. It's not. That's the reason why there are people who have went to different countries who are from the United States and they've been able to be locked up and stay there for a certain amount of time. At the end of the day, if President Trump already deemed Trende Aragua and MS-13 as terrorist groups, if they find one of them, there isn't going to be a due process. They're just going to instantly deport them out of the country because they're terrorists. I think that's another thing that a lot of people are missing. It's not that President Trump wanted to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It's more that the group that a judge in an appellate court said that he was a part of is a group that's already been deemed a terrorist group. So for that reason, President Trump's administration can deport him out of the country and they would not be in the wrong. So I'm just interested to see how this is going to play out because they seem, the media is not going to let this go or drop this. And I'm not necessarily saying that they should, rightfully so. They want to fight for another person who had some type of U.S. residency at some point. So rightfully so. But if it kind of is punching the wind when the man's already been told by a court. So this is not a trials court. That's why I'm saying in 2 court. We got 3, 2, 1. The 2 court would be the appellate court. 3 court would be trials court. An appellate court is higher than a trials court. So if the appellate court is saying all these things, there would be no grounds to keep the man in the country, especially if he had a deportation order in place. That's another thing that I'm not sure people are paying attention to. Stephen Williams went on record to say, and he's a member of President Trump's cabinet, he's usually talking to the press. He went on record to say that a Democrat actually put the fact that Kilmar's arrest was done accidentally in the paperwork on purpose. And that person actually is no longer a lawyer. They're actually no longer a lawyer. So I think that that's something that we need to pay attention to. So let's take a look at how Anthony Brian Logan covered this. He had a little bit to say about this. I'm probably not going to catch the whole entire thing of it because I do want you guys to go over to his channel and give him his due views. But let's take a look at what he had to say about some of this.
Security and illegal criminal migrants. Let's talk about Logan, and today we're going to talk about the border czar Tom Homan and our brand new White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt destroying the mainstream media when it came to questions about border security, about illegal criminal aliens, and about the so-called accidentally deported migrants, such as the so-called Maryland dad who was an MS-13 gang member, wife beater, alleged human trafficker, and more. Now, this was a masterful display from Tom Homan and Caroline Leavitt. It was amazing. Caroline does great at being able to convey the administration's messaging, and Tom Homan does good at his job, which is border security, a very important thing. They say during the Biden administration, they let 20 million illegal aliens pour into our nation, just unfettered, willy-nilly, whatever. Leaving the border wide open, talking about, oh, they're vetted. Vetted how? Vetted where? If you just leave a door open and let anybody come into without checking anything, and then you might ask questions later, okay, well, let's get to the interior of the country, and then we'll give you a court date 10 years from now. That's not having any kind of security, so I'm glad that he's here. Now, we got to get into a few things. One thing I want to show you is right here, okay? Now, some of you guys may have seen this already. I'm gonna play the video with no sound, but there are 100 of these yard signs out in front of the White House where the press would normally be when they're recording their live shots. And each of the yard signs has an illegal alien picture, name, and their crime. Okay, and we can see some of these crimes here, people deleting people, drugs, a lot of assault, sexual assault, a lot of that kind of stuff. 100 of these signs, and you can see, you might have seen it right there. See, somebody was doing their live shot right in front of it, see? See, right here, there could be live shots, news, media, things of this nature, and you're going to have these signs right in the back. And you can see all the crimes, you know, assaulting children, things like this. You can see all the crimes that they have done. And I think this is a good thing to do to send a clear message. Hey, we're going after the criminal migrants. That's our main concern. Your grandma, they got a taco truck on the side of the road for the past 35 years. Ain't nobody worried about your abuela. Ain't nobody worried about her. Who we are worried about are guys like this. Okay, we can see what they did here. We can see what they did here. All right, so we don't have to really get too much deeper. And it's not a black or a white or Puerto Rican and candy stripe thing, because right in this random frame I chose, just for no reason, I see white guy, Hispanic, black guy, everybody. And I'm sure it's gonna be a Chinese in here. They're going right there, look at that. With CP on his computer, okay? So the whole point is not a race thing. They wanna say, oh, you're being racist, you're being hateful. It's not about that. Try not committing crime. Try not being here illegally. Try not having inappropriate pictures on your computer or on your cell phone. Try not doing that. That's not very hard to do. Now, let's get to some videos here. We're going to start with Caroline Leavitt. Of course, I will place all these videos in the description box. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit the link in the bio. Go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
The president has also restarted construction of his signature advanced border wall. More than 85 miles of new border barrier are already in various stages of construction and planning.
85
And Border Patrol, in collaboration with the Department of Defense and the great state of Texas, have deployed 75 additional miles of temporary barriers across the southern border. The Trump administration, as you know, has also ended the disastrous CBP-1 app, which Joe Biden exploited to facilitate the migration of nearly 1 million illegal aliens into the country.
Now, that's just through that one app. That's just through that one app. But like I said, there was at least 20 million migrants let into the country during Biden's term.
The Department of Homeland Security has relaunched this as the CBP Home app to provide illegal aliens in the U.S. a straightforward way to declare their intent to voluntarily depart. For years, Joe Biden's weakness in open border policies allowed vicious cartels to functionally control, through a campaign of terror, rape, and brutal force, nearly all illegal traffic across the southern border. President Trump has put a stop to this in record time. He designated these heinous cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and invoked the Alien Enemies Act to immediately apprehend, detain, and remove these massive threats who have flooded our country with deadly drugs, violent criminals, and vicious gangs. The Trump administration is working 24/7 to successfully arrest and deport these illegal criminals and foreign terrorists from our communities.
So today marks President Trump's first 100 days. So for the rest of the week, as the first news anchor said, we're gonna see different videos about the cabinet's or the administration's accomplishments up until the first 100 days. And I'm gonna go over more of that in the next live stream after this one. So I just wanted to kind of touch on, just a little bit about what's going on in the president's first 100 days as far as like deportations, what people are saying about Abrego Garcia, just different things. The Harvard situation, that's a big thing right now. So on the second live stream, I'm going to react to even more of that. But this one was really for, the Eagles at the White House, kind of to touch on the news. And that's why I only really reacted to just news and Anthony Brian Logan first. And then I'm going to jump back on, and then we'll have the regularly scheduled live stream where we have just the news clips or anything else that maybe someone sent to me and wants us to look at on the channel today. So with that being said, guys, I will see you guys later on today. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, and love one another. Peace.